In September of 2018, it was announced that the Telltale game studio would be shutting down amidst a decline in sales and a development process that had been spread too thin. This news came as a shock for most people who follow the day-to-day events of the gaming industry, as by all accounts, Telltale had been ramping up their release schedule since striking gold in the earlier parts of the decade, scoring big in a number of different markets with the wide appeal of their licensed titles. Most people watching this video should be familiar with the circumstances surrounding Telltale's unlikely rise and precipitous fall, but some may not have been able to predict the full scope of this event's collateral damage. Only a couple months following their closure, Telltale's library of games would start to trickle away from online storefronts. They purged some of the lower-selling older titles first, but it wouldn't be very long before more drastic measures would be taken. Fast forward to today, and their entire library has been yanked from sale on GOG.com, with only a few threads left hanging on for dear life on Steam. Even Minecraft Story Mode, a mainstay of theirs that enjoyed particular success with the younger market, has now been confirmed to be dropped from sale completely on all platforms before the end of June 2019. Caught in a web of copyright issues, mismanagement, and lowered returns on investment, Telltale is a tragic case study in why the philosophy of numerous modern game companies will inevitably not lead to a thriving, stable business with the longevity required to be successful. Beyond all this, however, is a growing problem for people of all ages who are looking to become fans of this medium, or who maybe want to play the same games that their friends or relatives enjoyed in the past. A problem that I don't personally envision is going to get any better in the 2020s or beyond, unless there is a major course correction for how the game industry handles the task of preserving its catalog. I'm talking, of course, about the delisting of games from sale on digital storefronts. The 2010s have been defined by digital forms of media supplanting their physical predecessors, and though I can't personally deny the number of benefits that this transition has enacted in my own life, the normalization of digital rights management during this era has led to a number of side effects that, in most cases, impact the end user the most. In case you've been living under a rock, video games have been sold commercially for like 40 years at this point, and though preserving old arcade games is still a struggle that continues to this day, there's generally always a way to enjoy one of these interactive experiences through some legitimate means. For home console games in particular, there's always a way to revisit, backup, or resell your personal copies of a game in a way that you see fit, as long as you aren't distributing illegal copies of said game. Without rehashing the entire history of DRM in video games, it shouldn't be hard to see why this isn't the same case for a digital copy of a video game. When you activate a Steam CD key, for example, this copy of a game will be tied to your personal account indefinitely, without the possibility of it being traded or sold to another user. Steam also uses platform encryption for their games that likely breaks their end-user license agreement if tampered with, so personal backups of games that are to be used off-platform are also a no-go. Generally speaking, removed games can still be re-downloaded if you've already purchased them, allowing you to revisit them into the future. Except no, there have actually been some cases where games have been removed from download availability for everyone, with Minecraft Story Mode set to become the latest and most egregious case of this pretty soon. As the market for physical games media erodes away, gamers who want to experience the latest that the industry has to offer are pretty much forced to comply with these ever-increasing restrictions, whether or not they're even aware of them in the first place. When you purchase a digital game today, you're basically consenting to the fact that it can be taken away from you at any time, and unfortunately we're now starting to see the more extreme consequences of this implicit contract. This scenario we find ourselves in would not be so abruptly concerning if the industry in question could even put in the minimum amount of effort required to just simply keep these games available. Steam has removed a number of games over the years, but in a lot of cases, they have a CD-ROM copy out there somewhere, they've been moved to a different platform, or there's at least some legitimate reason to be removed, such as broken compatibility with a newer operating system. We're now getting to the era of optimized modern video games that shouldn't have these kinds of issues, but again, they're just increasingly locked to this digital storefront realm, and there's really no legal alternative in sight. The gaming industry has always laughed at the idea of providing royalties to the very people who pour their blood, sweat, and tears into their products. Many of these same people are treated to incredibly poor working conditions, where 80-hour work weeks are normal and expected during crunch periods. In the case of Telltale games, a majority of these employees who busted their ass to stay afloat during crunch were just rewarded with an unceremonious pink slip at the end of their shift. I'm willing to bet that there were some people in that crowd who had kids during this time. And those children are going to grow up to a world where their parents' work isn't even properly preserved for them to experience and share. I don't really need to dress up this problem any more than it needs to be, but the fact that so much of this could be fixed with just a half hour of work by some people here and there at different companies makes all these consequences so much more frustrating and tragic in my opinion. In a fair situation, these games would continue to be sold online, with the rights holders collecting the usual cut of profits, ideally with a portion going to some form of royalties for the people who worked on the game, all the developers, the animators, the voice actors, everybody. I applaud some of the recent efforts to bolster workers' rights and unionize within the video game industry, but with the current outlook, this scenario still seems to be just a pie-in-the-sky fantasy for now. All I can say really is I hope this problem does not go ignored as the next console generation comes around and people move on from this era of video games. As in my opinion, the industry as it stands today seems to have an active disdain for video game fans who are not about buying whichever live service is out this quarter or whatever is currently popular on Twitch. The Telltale library, and all of the hundreds if not thousands of removed Steam games, as well as removed digital exclusive games on other platforms like Xbox Live Arcade, PSN, and WiiWare via the Wii eShop for example, all these games deserve to be remembered and revisited by future generations. Game preservation is a struggle that needs to be worked through, but if it's not where the money goes, I truly worry that this is a problem that may never be solved. Hey, thanks for watching this quick discussion about the consequences of removing digital games from sale. This topic is very important to me as someone who's adopted the digital platform for the majority of my video game playing. So hopefully some of you out there resonated with this and understand where I'm coming from. I did a video a while back about some removed games on Steam, and one of them's actually been brought back for sale, that being Alan Wake, so I'm really glad to hear about this, super glad that others will be able to experience this game in its full. If you want to read more about that topic and other things that I discussed in this video, I have some links for further reading down in the description. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.